Hey guys, and welcome back to Survivor. Last time we did a field of view comparison through the lenses between the Pimax 5K Plus and the Samsung Odyssey VR headset in Project Cars 2. Today I want to show you the difference in field of view through the lenses again, of course, between the Pimax 5K Plus and the Oculus Rift this time in three popular VR simulators: Digital Combat Simulator, Assetto Corsa and X-Plane 11 VR. Why am I even doing this, you may ask? I think most of you guys out there that has not experienced a wide field of view in VR before needs to see this to understand how important a wide field of view is for the VR immersion, the sense of speed and the awareness. Now, before we begin, make sure to subscribe and leave a like on this video once you have watched it. And please watch the whole video because I think I will give you a lot of useful information. As always, a big thanks to all my lovely Patreon supporters and a special thanks to my official sponsors on Patreon: Commander Darklight, Art Armin and VR Ambassador. So, today we will compare the field of view between the Oculus Rift and the Pimax 5K Plus. As you may know, the original Oculus Rift headset has a field of view of around 95 to 100 degrees horizontally, which is slightly smaller than the HTC Vive or the Samsung Odyssey. I do not have the Oculus Rift S yet, but I can tell you that the field of view of the Oculus Rift S is more or less identical to the original Oculus Rift field of view, and some people have reported that the Rift S even has a smaller field of view, especially if you have an IPD value larger than 64. Anyways, we will not only compare the Rift field of view to the widest field of view of the Pimax 5K Plus, which is approximately 170 degrees horizontally, but we will also have a look at the normal and small field of view on the Pimax. The normal field of view is around 150 degrees and the small is 125 degrees horizontally, of course. As I said last time, do not mind the image quality, the sharpness, the God rays, colors or brightness, some occasional flicker or any other distractions in these comparisons. All footage in this video is taken through the lenses with a couple of wide-angle 1080p action cameras, and it's very difficult to get a good image quality through the lenses, especially when recording a video. Also, the far left and right edges of the Pimax image might look a bit more distorted or stretched than in reality, and that's because the image you see here is rendered on a flat surface, while in VR the Pimax panels are canted or angled, which gives you a more panoramic view around you in VR. Like in this simple example I just made in Photoshop, the view in VR looks like a rounded panoramic view rather than a compressed flat image, even if it is a wide angle. Furthermore, all shots have been taken with the headset pointing straight forward in a normal sitting position in all three simulators, so no head movements are made at all. Let's begin by taking a look at the Oculus Rift field of view in Assetto Corsa. You can immediately see that the view is quite limited with the 100 degrees of field of view. No, I have not cheated here, the field of view of the Oculus Rift is that small. I have even been generous here and increased the field of view a little bit so you can clearly see the left and right panel edges, which you normally don't see in VR when wearing the Oculus Rift because of the face pads prevents you from doing so. Driving an Audi R8 Plus in Assetto Corsa, you can see the entire left mirror in far edge of the view, but it is a little bit blurry, and I must say it looks better in this recording than in real life when looking at the left mirror in VR on the Oculus Rift. The right mirror of the car is definitely not visible in this view, and not the A-pillar either. I have to add that even the center mirror is not fully sharp here, and that's because of the very low sweet spot on the Oculus Rift. With sweet spot I mean the sharp looking area across your view. The center mirror falls somewhere between sharp and blurry when looking straight forward. It's also impossible to see your opponent's cars driving next to you. You won't see them until they have basically passed you, especially on the right side of your view. This means you have to move your head a lot during the races. Now let's have a look at the Pimax 5K Plus large field of view, which is basically 170 degrees horizontally. The difference is quite dramatic. Suddenly you see the right mirror without any problems being almost fully sharp, and the left mirror is perfectly sharp as well. On the left side you can almost see your whole side window, and that means it's easy to spot your opponent cars driving next to you. Even on the right side you see at least half of the side window. The whole view is just over overwhelming and simply surrounds you, covering almost your entire sight, just like in real life. As I mentioned last time, the wide field of view gives you a better awareness, a more immersive VR experience, and also a much more increased sense of speed. Now look at how fast the car feels on the Pimax compared to the Oculus Rift. The peripheral view is filled up with trees, fences and objects passing by you very quickly, and that adds a lot to the feeling of driving a fast car, just like in real life. And no, you don't wear any blinders while driving, and maybe you should try it in real life to really understand what I mean. You really miss the sense of speed and acceleration completely on the Oculus Rift, and it looks like the car drives much slower even if you're driving in the same speed indeed as on the Pimax. Now let's check out the normal field of view of Pimax. This field of view cuts off around 10 degrees on each side, which isn't much, but it is of course noticeable. You can still see the left and right mirror of your car of course, and the sense of speed is almost the same as with the wide field of view. Switching to the normal field of view also almost completely removes the slight distortion and blurriness in the edges of the widest field of view you just saw before. I think most Pimax users are using the normal field of view in most simulators, as it also gives you noticeable better frame rates. Although in Assetto Corsa you can easily play in the largest 170 degrees field of view on a GTX 1080 Ti or even a slower GPU, as this simulator is not so GPU demanding despite the wide field of view and high resolution. Next, let's check out the small field of view of Pimax, which is around 125 degrees horizontally. Now you can clearly see the field of view has been decreased to a degree where the image starts to look less appealing and less immersive. For sure, you can still see the left mirror fully sharp, but the right mirror is almost invisible as you only can see maybe 30% of it. There is no blur at all across the entire 125 degrees field of view, and all possible distortions are gone now. If you compare this field of view to the Oculus Rift 100 degrees, you will understand that the Pimax small field of view really isn't that small after all. It's quite a huge difference, and even if it's far from the large field of view, you can still get some better awareness across the track and also a better sense of speed. All in all, Assetto Corsa is a VR simulator that really needs a Pimax to bring out the full potential, just like any other racing simulator in VR. The dramatic field of view increase is amazing indeed, and to every person I have shown this, they have been all blown away. I think that says a lot. Now let's jump into Digital Combat Simulator and have a closer look at how it's rendered on the Oculus Rift field of view while just sitting in a normal position looking straight forward. This view basically covers your cockpit, but not much more than that. Unless you move your head, you have basically zero awareness of what's happening around you, and you miss the beautiful view outside of your FA-18C Hornet. What really bugs me here is that the aircraft just feels slow on the Oculus Rift. The sense of speed is really bad, and during fast turns, landings or takeoffs, you never feel the crazy velocity of this fighter jet. Due to the small sweet spot on the Oculus Rift, the cockpit is also quite blurry on the sides, which maybe is hard to see here, but believe me, it can look much worse than this. Switching over to the Pimax full field of view in Digital Combat Simulator, the large field of view gives you a mind-blowing VR experience, and now it finally feels like you're actually sitting in that aircraft and flying at crazy speeds. Maybe the most important thing is the sweet spot on the Pimax, as the entire cockpit and a lot beyond it on both sides is fully sharp and easy to look at without any blur. And yes, there is some distortion in the far left and the right sides. They do look much worse in this video than in reality, mainly because of the example I gave you before, that the image in VR on Pimax is more panoramic around you, while the clips here are compressed to a flat area, which increases the distortion and makes it look a little bit strange sometimes. Personally, the distortion seen in VR on large field of view with a Pimax headset is not bothering me at all. Maybe I got used to this very fast, but I never saw it as distracting even from the first time I tried Digital Combat Simulator on a Pimax headset. And I must say that the image quality in general and the total immersion will most likely make you forget about the distortion as soon as you jump into the airplane, that's for sure. Now let's see how the Pimax normal and small field of view looks like on the digital combat simulator. I would say the normal field of view of 150 degrees horizontally is the optimal choice for most people here, as the frame rate gets a good boost in this simulator. Sure, running with smart smoothing reprojection enabled, you can actually make it smooth on a large field of view with the RTX 2080 Ti graphic card, but I would still recommend you to start with normal field of view here. It's still so much wider than the Oculus Rift field of view, and most of the scenery around you while looking straight ahead is still seen in the peripheral vision. You don't lose much sense of speed either, as the peripheral view is still wide enough to see most of the objects passing by you very fast. The small field of view with Digital Combat Simulator is still way more wide than the Oculus Rift field of view, even if I personally do not prefer it. It cuts out a lot of the surroundings in your view, and even if you constantly see the scenery while looking straight forward, some of the sense of speed gets lost here. The blinders on the left and right side makes the experience a bit less immersive. Of course, you will gain some more performance running in small field of view, but I'm not sure if that's really worth it. I guess once you have tried the large and normal field of view, it's really difficult to go back to small, and more or less impossible to go back to the Oculus Rift field of view, which looks quite hilarious at this point. That's one of the wow factors with the Pimax headsets. Once you have used them and try to go back to your Vive or Rift or whatever, it really makes you laugh and wonder how you could stand with that narrow field of view in the past. Lastly, we're gonna check out all field of view modes in the X-Plane 11 VR flight simulator. First, let's have a look at how Oculus Rift renders the view. The most distracting thing here is that you basically see nothing outside of the window on your left side. The tiny part of the window you see is also blurry and not useful unless you start to move your head around. A big portion of the cockpit inside of the Beechcraft Baron aircraft is not possible to see unless you look to the right. In fact, nearly half of your cockpit is just cut out from your view. Personally, after using Pimax headsets for more than 6 months now, I have to say that the field of view on the Oculus Rift feels very claustrophobic, which is far from immersive no matter how good the resolution or the gauges might be. This is also one of the reasons I have my doubts about the HP Reverb having a similar field of view to the Oculus Rift. But I will get the HP Reverb any day now, so I will keep you updated on my first impressions. As mentioned before, flying an X-Plane 11 with such a small field of view in VR kills the sense of speed completely. The Baron is not a slow aircraft at all, but it just feels slower than ever, especially during takeoffs and landings, but also while flying on low altitudes. The low sweet spot on the Oculus Rift doesn't really make the gauges of the cockpit easy to read either. I must say this, if you are a frequent X-Plane 11 VR flyer, you should definitely look for a headset with a wide field of view. The large field of view on the Pimax 5K Plus finally makes this flight simulator justice. You can see the beautiful sceneries around you, you can see the entire cockpit from edge to edge, and you can easily spot outside of the left window without even moving your head at all. This gives you the proper feeling of flying a Beechcraft Baron airplane with a spectacular view surrounding you, with a fully sharp cockpit ahead of you and with fully readable gauges. Now you also feel the speed of this propeller aircraft, which is quite mind-blowing. This is how X-Plane 11 VR is supposed to feel in VR, if you ask me. And while the difference is not huge switching from the large field of view to the normal field of view, I have to admit you will feel the difference, especially while flying on low altitudes. The 10 degrees on each side, which are blinded out here, are more important than you might think. Sure, it's still very wide with a normal field of view and definitely much wider than the Oculus Rift field of view, but the difference is noticeable to me. One good thing here though is that you get rid of the minor edge distortion, which are barely seen at all with the normal field of view mode. The small field of view, which is still much larger than the field of view of the Oculus Rift, feels a bit narrow here, even if it is hard to see the big difference in this video. You lose a lot of the sight outside of your airplane, which also decreases the sense of speed. The Baron airplane feels a bit slower now again, as you don't see that much surroundings anymore, especially during landings and takeoffs. Using the small field of view, you will see the entire cockpit without any problems, but the right window is now completely blinded by the black edges. I would recommend you to use at least a normal field of view or preferably the large field of view while playing X-Plane 11. This is how this simulator should be enjoyed. So all in all, we already know that the Oculus Rift cannot really be compared to the Pimax in any meaningful way, neither in terms of sharpness, screen door effect, clarity or the sweet spot. Pimax is the winner here hands down in basically every single factor, but the field of view is what we have been looking at here today, and if you are still watching this video, you probably understand now why I'm yet today so excited about the Pimax field of view. If you are a serious VR simulator fan, I would highly recommend you to at least try a wide field of view headset such as the Pimax 5K Plus or the Pimax 8K. But remember, I warned you, once you go wide field of view, it's impossible to go back. Trust me, it's a fact. And guys, what do you think about this field of view comparison between the Pimax 5K Plus and the Oculus Rift? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down here below. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to my channel for more geeky VR content coming up. If you appreciate my videos and my efforts, please consider joining my Patreon, I would really appreciate that. A big thanks to all my lovely Patreon supporters, and a special thanks to my 3 official sponsors on Patreon: Commander Darklight, Art Armin and VR Ambassador.